Hey, well, welcome to the Dream Labs, the Dr. Contrast Live. Boy, it's good to be back on board here, gang, and really appreciate the fact that interesting how over the course of the past week or so, forgive me for not being on live and through the process here and adding some of the materials we're working with, but I wanted you to know I just had a couple of complications with some of the studio work, nothing major. Had a couple of pieces of also some information on an appointment time I had to take care of, so I missed all last week, and I'm very sorry about that. But I thought I'd come back in today and really come back and look at this beauty. Hey, Jeff Margish, oh man, I wish I could watch this one. Got to do and take care of a few things. Very good. Hey, thanks, Jeff. Good to have you on board. Nice to see you on board here today. But again, I thought, thank you again for your patience. And this has been a long-awaited little process here. I've been putting this in together for the last, maybe say 2 weeks. As I started about maybe 2.5 weeks ago with a nice little very, very packaged sketch here. But it's a 911 GTR Targa series. Very interesting form. And what I love about the Porsche process and the brand is it's so iconic. It's simple and elegant and it's beautiful, but again, there's some rather neat little subtleties in this thing that all come together. So I thought I'd take a moment here, and I got to jump on the illustration. Notice very, very formal pastel marker sketch here. I'm going to go back and forth throughout the process here with this guy and tune into some things like, for example, adding some line weights, some more definition, but at the same time coming back in and really focusing on this side. Let's see if I can get to see all the screen here. I'll get some of it in here. Yeah, this is the aspect I want to get to. This is the historic piece, the iconic piece, and this is the next generation of what I refer to as LMP concept cars. I mean, they're out there now, but it's just a nice counterpoint between how simple and elegant this shape is and how very radical this whole package concept is in the LMP series. So I'm going to go through a series today of just much more lucid sketches here, very tight in this end of it, but at the same time, getting the capture down of just putting a lot of motion behind this thing. These three studies, different views. But at the same time, take my time to go through and get these taken care of. Then come back in and maybe on Thursday, get that established and look at the overall composition and get maybe the Porsche, the badging graphic up in the corner, a little bit of notation, some real strong pastel background to bring the whole illustration together. So bear with me, folks, as we go through the cycle here today. And I'm going to start up in this upper corner here and just start laying in some stuff from the ground on up. If you've noticed and watched me for some period of time, especially in automotive work, for example, in any given situation, I always like to start from the ground on up. For example, you get the ground set, get the wheelbase set, get the center line set, and come back in and begin to work from the wheels on up and slowly but surely just build the whole process together. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time here with a very good sharp black, putting in some high contrast shadow work, and at the same time, this is not quite ready to go yet. I'm going to cover that up just a little bit because I've got some pastel on it. So I'm going to come back in and just start putting some of the shadow down here and define this guy. Let's see if we can get this started. So we'll just come back in and get the outlines down, get a little bit of that far side tire, bring that on through, stretch that just a bit, get this back into place, get that little upkick in the nose piece, bring it back down again. Just kind of fill in the blanks here as we go. Just take a little bit of time. It's probably the most tedious part of it all, getting some of the high contrast black graphics in place. And once that gets established, it begins to really kind of tell the story about where to place the values in the rest of the operation as we go here. So let's go back through this. Bring this back downhill. Get the shadow to set a little bit. I just get some line weight in here first. Break this up. Take that into the tire geometry. Bring this through, put a bit of weight on it so it'll destroy the shadow line I'm after here. And this little intake piece, let's get that out of the way while we're at it. Little detail parts that make a huge difference here. Get this intake, this extractor, get that taken care of, get that down the line here. Start that piece, and back to shadow again, get that sponsor to work for us, this spoiler. There it is there. That comes off that wing, that nose cap. This comes through a little bit more stretch in this guy, just a touch more to kind of bring it out. There it is. Come back in again. Get the plan view to read here on the ground plane, and come right on through the rest of the shadow with these two streaks up on top, these ground effects dihedrals. So there we are there. Bring that into play. Get that set up. Yeah, I'm glad you joined us, Jeff. I hope you get a chance to look. Hey, DGM87, how you doing? Good to see you, man. How's everything? Demetrius, everything going well for you? Nice to have you on board again. So I don't know if you caught the intro, but I've already finished up a very solid 911 Targa initial product sketch here, 2019 variation, 2020 variation of the Targa. with the cabriolet upper on it. And I'm going to take a little bit of a counterpoint and go from there into an LMP series, some advanced concept work for the racing side of it all, which was really interesting for a moment here. This whole Targa series came from Targa Florio. It was a very, very, very extremely difficult road course in Italy. And these guys are competing this thing. Targa was a very demanding series of operations and motor skills and motorsports times gone by in the 50s and 60s. It was so dangerous they had finally stopped, I think, early 70s or late 60s. I'm not quite sure. But they never lost sight of the fact that that Targa became a brand name for Porsche. So the Targa came out of that. And out of that, I think because of the Targa system here, coming back in and looking at some of the LMP series here, so that we're trying to marry the two together from the old LMP, or the old new LMP, pardon me, into the Targa series and bring the two racing phenomenons together. So bear with me here. We're just going to put the shadow down here just a bit. Let's get this tire lined up. Get the shadow down, just kind of put a little bit of definition in the shadow. Then fill it in, and we'll work up into the vehicle itself. Back into that tire, back in the shadow, the spear behind it here, and just get a little bit of that trailer part here, right in here. There it is. Bring that through. Offset because of the plan view of the form itself. This comes up. Dives back out. And it goes there. While I'm at it, this little bit of brown in here. Just gotta get this guy. Just put this little sunshade cap on this thing. Let's get the extractor overhead intake piece. Get that lined up. Some of the small little pieces out of the way first. A little bit of a mask across the header. Into that portion here. That does it. Let's get the graphics nomenclature in place here. As much of the small stuff out of the way we possibly can. Then I go to actually illustrating the actual form itself. It'll be a lot more, much more lucid, not as tight. So I just want to get some of the small pieces out of the way first. So there we are there. This comes up just a bit. Let's kind of kick this downhill just a bit. Let's get this tire right underneath here. Get that dihedral to work. Right into that. So I'm going to stop there for a moment. I'm going to switch gears for a second. Put a little more tone in this thing. Let's get a really good high contrast, dark base to ground this thing, and we'll go from there. There we are. A little juicier here. More impact in the darks. There we are. That's better. Back and finesse the rest of it as we go through the process here. Get that all set up. It's a nice clean shadow definition. That sets that guy right down on the surface. There we are. We get this out of the way here. So we're starting to see how one begins to meld into the other, how that plan view form, this whole wing system up front begins to tell us what that shape is doing up in the cowl area there. So let's go back in, and little by little, I'm going to go a little bit more lucid now with some of the sketches. Let's get the tires planted in here first. Let's get that in place. Very lucid. I'm going to start light and slowly build them up a little bit here. Just ink them in. Start light. I'm going to add more drawing definition back on top of these when I get there. And it is there. There we are there. Again, much more lucid than the actual 911 illustration to the lower left here. Again, just to kind of spot it in here. Now, a little bit of scrub here. I'm going to go through this process very lightly. Take that on through, bring this continue on through the form itself. Where my light source is going to become, bring this underneath to get that dihedral read. Come back inside here, shadow side. Notice my light source is off here from the left. So I'm going to start toning that in a bit. Put the shadows in there first. Get the shadow sides down. Notice we'll let that come to pass here in just a moment. Again, cockpit area. Let's walk this in. Notice we're going a lot quicker now. Much more lucid. trying to get a little more captive and a little more sporty in terms of getting the form to read. Just little by little, staining some things in here as we go. Now, let's go another step here. Let's get this vacuole area here. I'll put these back in order so I know where they are. Let's get a little bit more shadow in here, down the center line. More animation in the glass. A little more contrast. Carry that through. There we are. That's that part of that. Let's come back in through here and add a little bit more of this offset. Get that kind of to set back a little bit more for us here. Again, with light source in mind. Come right across that shadow. Play that in. A lot more animation there. Let that go just a touch. And while I'm at it, I'll come back in and really get bolder little by little with the wheel system here. So we're going to come back in and just really start to ink this in. Put a little bit more high contrast in here now. It goes very quickly. Let's get the other side of it here. Notice I'm slowly building the surfaces up. Kind of catch them to read here. Those of you who are watching, is this making sense, Demetrius? Let's get this down here. So far, so good. For some reason, I can't watch it live. When I click on the tab, it shows me a screenshot. Anybody else have? Uh-oh, we good? Hopefully that's not becoming a problem here. Sorry about that. More offset here. And there it is. Little by little, kind of block that in. Now let's go through and put some surface work together here on the actual body form itself. Hope that's, is that going to work? Is that working out all right there, Demetrius? Are we okay? Boy, I hope that's get the resolve. We're good at this end. Everything seems to be running nicely, hopefully. So here we go. Again, scrub it very quickly. Much more animated, a whole lot more animated, just nice and easy as we go through here. Just picking up some of these shapes, lock that in just a bit. Over the top of that, and just for what it's worth here, let's kind of bring in this large spoiler up on top here. Let's kind of ink that in. And we'll get that all squared away. A little bit of shadow on this guy. Drop that through. Run that through. The hero behind the home form here. Let's go back in one more time. So we're starting to bring this thing up a little bit. Hey, Victoria, nice lighting on these. And hey, Victoria, good to see you. Hey, this is Carsonian. Hey, how you coming, Carsonian? Let's go back here just for a moment. I'll give you a little bit of an up speed here. Thanks for joining us, folks. And hey, by the way, Victoria, it was great to see you on Saturday. I want to take a moment to thank you for being very kind and to chat a little bit. And really neat to meet you. And thank you for taking the time. It's Carsonian, doing great. Thanks. Good to see you, Carsonian. Wonderful to have you on board. A bit of a little intro here. Interesting here. I started this a couple of weeks ago. I want to just do a little bit of a timepiece here. Let me go back a bit here. I'll kind of bring up the speed here, gentlemen. There's always been intriguing to me how simple Porsche is and how very elegant it is, but at the same time it's become a timeless icon. So I started to put this Targa together, this 911 Targa, 2020 vintage, and I thought it'd be kind of nice to have it all put together as part of maybe a real tight illustration of what the actual form is doing today. And then take a look into this whole idea here, going back in and almost turning around from a very tight pastel marker piece to a very lucid racing approach to a concept study for LMP. So I'm trying to get the two generations to work here, but I just want to let you know that this is a very slow process, Took a little bit of time to get together. I'll come back and maybe review some things later on, but very highly reflective, very much drawing detail. Same with these guys, but a lot more animation because there's a lot more vehicle and dynamics involved in it. I don't want to get caught up with some of the stuff that we get too touchy with it here. So again, very lucid here, very specific here, but hopefully tying the two together. And the reason for the piece is strictly this. I've always felt that the Targa Florio in Italy, which they ran in, which this vehicle was named after, a very demanding race course, but they've never lost their roots. So Porsche, back in the 2012 areas and so forth, I think back to 2010 even, dedicated a model nomenclature called the Targa, and they stayed with that through the years, and then to honor that race course. So again, thought it'd be kind of timely today to go back and look at some neat stuff here based on what the old history was. So we'll move along here, and we'll start to put these pieces together. And today's mission is to get this portion put together, then think about the overall background and get some guts into this thing, and begin to wrap it up maybe on Thursday with some final pastels and detail and some temper work. So I'm going to take my time today and hopefully take you through the process from shape to shape to shape. So let's go back in through here, a little more detail in this, a little more detail in this, and just start to block it in. A little more scrubbing through here, a little bit of shadow across the top of that cap, and then into this, again, over the top of that wheel envelope. Bring that into play, and drop that, get that dihedral read back here, and there it is there. And at the same time, let's go back in and have a little fun with this thing. Let's say we had a little bit of a yellow sponson up front, so let's do this. Color this thing. At the same time, some racing colors in there. Come back in with this guy, and just a touch of this. Into that little accent piece here. A bit of a racing stripe there, outboard end and outboard in. A little bit more definition, just to give a little bit of character. A little bit of the German flying colors and the like. Let's see, where are we here? See, it's lovely to meet you. It's so very good to meet you as well. Just a lot of fun stuff here, guys. Let's get back in a little detail here I forgot to put together here. It's this. We're going back to this little intake piece here on the nose crown. There it is. Let's get that split line through there. Let's get that split line in there. And define this shape. Bring this all together here. A little bit of an offset here. Let's get that tuned in. Yeah, let's get that tuned in. A little bit of an offset. And again, let's go back with just a little more tone in this thing. Let's put a little bit more guts in this lower aspect here. Let's get this guy put together. Little dump box at this end here. Let's come back in again. A little bit of shadow off of that fender on the top of that crest. Let's bring that on in. A lot more animation through here. Just neat stuff. Bring that into play. Notice, very quick and lucid to get that shape to bring the read. What do you think, gang? Coming along all right? So far, so good? Now, we're going to come back in, a little bit of tone here, and the shadow, get that shadow down in the rearview mirrors. Bring that into play. Get that taken care of underneath that sponson. Let's do that. Back up on top. Let's get this deck to work a little bit here. Let's get this guy to read in. Red end plate. It's enough color. Then reversing the process, just a touch of that on the far side. You'll see just about that much on the far side of the vehicle itself. Let's come back in through here. And begin to change this character. A little bit of shadow underneath this guy. A little more drawing definition in this beauty. Some extractor work in here. and more drawing definition. Fuel dump. Some glass animation. Cabin intake. Cabin intake. More racing nomenclature here. A little more animation. Get this thing to read a little bit more. Just kind of fly through it, give it some real grace. Not so static. And it's just got to go back in just a little bit more guts around this guy. Let's get that intake to work a little bit better here. Cowl. More graphics in here. And there you go. It's almost coming together here, guys. What do you think? So far, so good. Love to meet you. Get some assessment from you all, guys. Is this thing reading all right for you? I mean, I hope we're just kind of doing a real nice, simple little push here. Let's come back in. And while we've got it here running, we're going to come back and get a little more lamp graphics here in a minute. Let's get the tires to read for us. Now, picking up the center line. Let's go back in and get real gutsy with this thing now. I'm going to make a real commitment. Over the top. Much more animation. Now we're using the marker to kind of define some of the wheel graphics in there. And that's kind of fun stuff. You know, just being really lucid with it and paying attention to some of the character of the machine you're after and getting this thing to just kind of nicely dip in there. 1, 2, 3, 4. There it is. Now we'll come back in just a moment with that fine line pen, and we'll define a little bit more. More drawing definition. Just for a moment. Let's try a little bit of this. Oh, I just made it. How about that? There it is. A little bit of tail graphics on this thing. What do you think, guys? Coming together all right? This is fun stuff. Let me do this. I forgot to get one piece of material here. Let's kind of run this through just a bit here. A little bit more reflection, animation on some of the surfaces. Get this to kind of read through into place here. It's doing, excuse me, just a moment here, guys. I got to grab something I should have gotten earlier. Pardon me. Wait. Try a little bit of this. Let's do a little bit of the sky tone in this thing. Let's put a bit of glass in this beauty. Kind of dust that in just a touch. More definition there. Some little glass graphics in that guy. And then that guy, just kind of scrub it through. All of a sudden, just give a little more transparency to it and bring it all together. And for what it's worth, let's go back in and just pick up some of that same character, for example, with some of the flag graphics there. Let's do this. Let's give a little more character up on top here. So now we're here. Let's get the cut line in through here. There's a little repair line there. Let's go back to that. Let's go back in here. Where was I here? There it is. Getting that all squared away and more reflected in the glass. And for what it's worth, let's come back down through it, add a little bit more definition in this piece right here. Let's get that squared away. And because it's a little bit of shadow, let's take this thing and kind of roll in a little bit of tone to it. Dark, there it is. Dark there. Let's take this on through. A little bit of tone change up on top. A little more body graphic in here. Let's go with that header. Intake put together. Just start adding a little bit more drama to this thing and giving it a little bit more definition as opposed to being just a little bare bone study here. Let's do this. Let's get this back in place here. This graphic area here. Got some definition. And last but not least, we'll come back in here with the flying colors. So we're ready to go, and we've got black first. We'll kind of put this high contrast area so we can separate what the tail fin is doing. So we have that going on. And there she is. And now we're going to go back in, add some of the same flying color in red. Let's get that in place. And then last but not least, come back in through here and put that last finishing touch in here with a little bit of yellow. There you are. There it is there. Let's put a little bit more drama coming across the top of that sponson area here. So cast a shadow with a little bit of that coming across that form itself so it's not so stark. A little more definition through here. And again, shadow underneath this thing. More tone down below. A little highlight line here. Again, same there. Scrub it in. Notice very quick and lucid. Just trying to get the shapes to work here for us, and then some of the connection lines here. Let's go back in. Let me get rid of some of this stuff here that I don't lose them. There we are. And I'm going to go back in here, pick up this guy. Kind of inventing as we go here now. Let's go back and define this a little bit more. Let's connect that wheel flare in there. Let's get that little bit of that brake dump over the top of that. And all of a sudden, start to take on some character and some personality. What do you think, guys? Coming all right, Carlson, looking sharp. Thank you very much. So again, notice the contrast where one is extremely, very tight, very illustrative. The other is very emotional. A lot of high contrast, for example, in the actual form itself. Let's kind of get this kind of lead there. Let's kind of put more definition in some of those line words here. So we know we are. Let's bring that around. Let's bring that around. And again, a little more definition, that's it. And just for what it's worth, sometimes we can kind of cheat this guy, put a little bit of this color into it, a little illumination to it, and then just slowly but surely just bring that on through. A lot more illustrative. Just open it up just a bit more, have some fun with this guy. So there's almost to the level of phase one here. I'm going to go back and let's try something else here. Maybe for going back in the archives and grab some material here. Get a little richer with this thing. Go that route. Then we're going to go this route. We're going to come back and get a lot more definition up in the shadow area here. This guy. Just lamp black that thing right in there. A little deeper. A little deeper. I'm going to come back in with this. What do you think, guys? Got it coming together pretty nicely. There it is. Put a bit of hot spot down in through here. A little bit of hot spot over through here. Glass. All of a sudden, it's taking on a different personality here. And I think one of the things that might be a little bit more effective to do as well is to come back and maybe get this shadow to kind of define itself more. Maybe I don't want to go back in the marker here. So let's go back and protect this portion of it. Let's kind of clean this shadow up just a bit. Comes across, slides through. Picks up the plan view of the shape on the ground plane itself. There it is there. Come back in and just a little bit more scrubbing through here. I kind of missed a couple of spots in there, so it's kind of a little more dramatic with that change of face there. And let's do this. I want to point out here while we're working on this thing, right now it's pretty stark where you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 elements in the actual composition itself. But what you'll see, hopefully on Thursday, we're going to come back and begin to blend them all together. And I think what I'll use is maybe a combination of the German flag, a lot of high contrast black, into a little bit of red, and into a little bit of yellow. Just let then put the Porsche graphic, the badging over the upper left-hand corner. That can kind of bring it all together nicely, I think. So let's do this. I'm going to add a little more touch here. Put a hot spot on that side. And again, let's get this graphic back in here. Just a little bit more highlight. And there it is. Kind of faded out there. So there's one interesting little set of circumstances. Maybe we can put together a little bit of this too. I don't think it'll hurt our case here. If I can get a red pan, let's do this. Let's put a little more color in this thing here. Let's get this guy kind of scream through here. A little more definition. So it's that. And again, into maybe some, it's a very simple graphics work down below. Just some other faces of badging and some sponsorship pieces, just enough to give it a bit more flair in terms of being an LMP car instead of it just a Cooper variation thereof. So again, that's a good way to begin to pick up some of the pieces in terms of organizing what the forms might look like, and how do we get it. Now let's go back and just really struggle. This is going to be the fun one here. Pure elevations are easy to work with. Not easy, but I mean much more dramatic in terms of, let's get in this. Let's just stain it in first. Let me put that aside. Let me find the right stick here. Start with the number 4 gray. Let's kind of stain this in. We're going to walk right around the corner here with this. Protect this. So one more time, protect this. And come right through it. No hesitation. Just hold it, come right in there and just hit it. Same thing with the glass. So get the armature started. See what we're after here. There it is there. Bring it through. Dihedral. Offset. There it is there. Let's come down the line just a bit here with a little more graphics in it. A little more contrast. Open the actual glass area here. How quickly this thing starts to come together as a result of just playing the graphics and getting high contrast, darks next to the lightest lights. Tone in with the wheels. Again, tone out and just scrub it through. Dihedral change, offset body and lower form into shadow. Just really ground this thing. Man, all of a sudden it's there. You've got it. So I'm going to take a moment here and just refine that just a touch. Let's come back to the other end of the scale and bring this up to speed with a little bit more of the lighter upper surfaces by doing the following. Again, scrub through. Don't hesitate. Come right in here. Hit it. Hit it. Come back and reverse that form. Hit it over the top. Bring it in. Bring it through and complete the scenario. There it is. It comes off that upper portion. There it is. There. Let's kind of tune that in. And again, the more light in through here, where that form's coming back off of the shape of there. There it is. Again, look how lucid that gets. Let's do a little fun with this thing. Maybe a bit of change of pace and a flying color. So we do this. A little bit of graphics in here. That wraps around. Maybe that has a little red dihedral, another red dihedral, no change of pace. Maybe this lower piece has a little bit of flag on it. And in this case, maybe there's a bright yellow rear sponson on this guy. Let's do this. So there it is there. Now let's go back in and begin to tune a couple more pieces in here. Let's go back and get a little more drama in this thing. There it is. Along that catwalk in the upper portion of it. There it is there. Bring that into play. A bit of shadow underneath that little intake piece. And again, we'll catch a little bit of shadow on this piece here as we come into, oops, pardon me, get my hands down here. We catch a little more shadow in this glass. Let's kind of put this back into a little bit more hot spot. There it is. A little more shadow underneath this. There. Get that glass to read a little bit more. Fuel dump. Again, draw back into it. Start to break the shapes up. Might be a little bit of a different variation, but that's all right. Looking at potential, future think, dihedral, a bit of shadow. Bring it down the ground line here. Bring that on through. Bring that on through. Take it on out. Same thing here. At that. Now, what we don't see in the other piece is this. Don't have the right view, but we kind of put a little bit of designation back here. A little bit of shadow here to get it back into place. And got a little bit more definition in this guy. Let's see, where's my fine? There it is, fine line pen. Come back in and just give it a little bit more clarity. There it is. Clean this up just a bit more. There it is there. This. Slow it down just a little bit here and get this guy to kind of read the same red rear view mirror. Get that little effect up on top here. And maybe a little stripe again through the whole body, but maybe a little accent back here. Nice, and then just enough to kind of play it off just a bit here. Just kind of add this just to it. That little offset there, and just stop it short of the letter form right there. So there it is. Add some graphics up on top here, just sponsorships and so forth. Bring that into play. And again, here, let's break it up. And let's go back into this thing and get a little more of that pastel work for us here. Come back in and tone this guy back a little bit, get a little more strength in that wheel system. And there it is there, a little bit more strength in that. And just for what it's worth, just really burst into some really neat stuff here. Just kind of flare out with it. More exciting. There it is, a little bit of hot spot on the glass. There's another variation on the theme here, guys. Let me cover this up here. I love how a small amount of color can provide so much depth. Yeah, you're right there, Carson. I mean, that's the secret. Keeping it simple, and I'm gonna let that flow off. Just give it enough character when it moves out of the way. What do you think, guys? There's 2 out of 3 down. What do you think? Let me stop there for a moment, and if you have any input, we're more than happy to receive it. I mean, I'm just kind of flying through it here. I'm just trying to put one compliment against the other. And what's missing here, again, for review purposes, what's missing is the backdrop. When I put in the backdrop or the washers behind it, it's all going to blend it together. So hopefully it's going to be a very high impact illustration, and really kind of serve the purpose of going from one extreme, one generation into another with the same kind of format and uniqueness in terms of being a real product. Let's just put those guys together. I mean, look how quickly that came together. And notice again, I'm working with a very simple series of values, and just interesting how when we get too complicated, this is a very deliberate rendering process. Let me pull this up for a moment. This 911 is an extremely deliberate rendering process. I love this kind of work. Maybe one day in a stream, I'll start with a line drawing and take you through the whole process. This takes a lot of concentration, and I'm not saying it's special. It just takes a lot of concentration. And to make it look more believable, especially with past on the market, you have to be very careful about how to set it all up and what your steps are going to become. And so I took the time to put this together in a very formal setup, and then took the almost the opposite extreme, working with the 3 companion pieces. In the LMP series, I really kind of opened it up a bit more. So it's a lot more explosive in terms of putting more color, more obviously the shapes and definitions are completely different, amazingly different. So again, nice variation on theme here. Let's see, last week, this is Carsonian. This looks fantastic of how a small amount of color provides so much depth. Looking for, I hope you can make it too, Carsonian, to be kind of neat to have you on board. I'm so thankful you've joined us. And Victoria, if you're still there, love to have you on board as well. And again, just really a lot of fun on Saturday to see you. Any comments thus far, guys, before we begin and try to wrap this thing up with this last piece here today? Anybody at all? No, there we go. That didn't help. Sorry about that, guys. Forgot to shut this thing down before I started. So there we are. There she goes right there. So we're almost 2 out of 3, and there it is. So coming together nicely. And then let's go back and get a little more of this. Let's put this definition down and go to this last sketch here. First, I'm going to, again, we started the whole process today from the ground on up. Now, maybe between now and Thursday, once I get these tuned in, I might tighten down a few things here and there, but I'm certainly not going to change the tempo. I don't want to destroy the character of the rafter here. So let's go back in and get this guy. Let's put the shadow down here. Let's get that ground plane in place. Just going to give us a little bit of a guideline here, so don't interrupt with a lot of the, get that little intake in place while I'm here. Don't forget it, that's critical, the portion there. Come across here, give myself a little guideline to work with. Take this uphill just a bit. It's there. Stretch this just a touch more. Bring this into play. Very much almost blade-like surfaces on these dihedrals coming off the front of the vehicle itself. So very interesting how to put that together. Let me just, I'll go back to this tighten. I need to tighten this down just a bit. This is some of the things I want to make sure we do a good job of to get it squared away for us. So when we start to put the illustration together, that helps to kind of clean it up a little bit. So I'll just go back over here, get this rolling. Get that intake piece here. There it is. And there it is. Come back down to ground line again. Get that established. Rear tire. A little tighter view. Gives you more drama and it gives you a little more dimension of what the width of this thing is relative to height and overall package size. So here we are here. Get this to come across, get that dihedral to read. Give me that tire, give a little bit of that to breathe. And last but not least, there it is. Just get a little bit of that intake in place while we're here. Get all those little hard little spots in place. There we are there. Upper. Intake, shadow, a bit of glass here. Let's bring this, there's the body side here. Let's get some of the glass in place. Some of the, a little bit of windshield graphics. We'll fill in some of the blanks in a moment here. Let's get this guy in place. All right, so there we are. There's the ground base in here. Let's come back in and just hit this thing very, very quickly here. Let's get the shadow down. Clear it up a little bit. Nice and deep. And bring it over across the nose cap itself. Bring that on through the shadow and get the plan view down. Stop it there. Again, just enough of that. That whole thing just kind of plants it right there. That is it. It just brings it down to earth and so forth. And let's go back in and now let's reverse a little bit here. Let's have a little bit of fun with some of the colors here. Then it'll be a burned out tank, just enough to kind of give it some character. Let's kind of put that together. A little of this, a little bit of that. And for what it's worth, what do we got here? Red, yellow. Okay, let's put this in place. So it's this. A graphic change here. And again, this. And again, we'll put this in place. A bit of red in between the two. Some little bit of livery on this thing. There we are. Highlight. Bring that into the wrap of the fender itself, or the wheel cover. Or fender blister, pardon me. There it is. We'll end it up with a little bit of black here to kind of give it some character. Let's come back into here. Highlight. A little bit of paper come through. Tone that in. That's that. Look at more time involved here. Just gonna rough in some real surfaces here. Here we are. Just gonna get that just cleaned up a bit. There it is. And there it is. It's gonna get that same little bit of graphics on top of this guy. There we are there. Let's get the underside of this sponson or this tail section in place. Knock it out. There we are. Get that rear sponson in place. Notice how it's becoming very graphic in a hurry. Just getting the high contrast areas in place. We can put it all together here for us here, gang. So let's go back and through this. And let's start with a little bit of a light palette. Let's go to number 1, cool gray. I'm working with the whole palette of cool grays, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Typical approach here. Let me cover this up so I must smudge it a little bit. And let's lay in some real quick surfaces. Ready? Notice how careful I am? Just wash that in there and just got that thing to kind of crank at me here. Let's come back and get this body side in place. Keep it nice and tight. Different perspective, but that's good. Get a little more drama to it here. I'm going to across the top of the fender form into the shape itself. No need to fill that in. It's pretty well solid. Now this backside piece here, this is my light sources out here. I'm going to have a little bit more. There's that rear blister right there, which becomes that form right there. So I'm going to bring that into play. Up on top, again, highlight across the fender cap. There it is. Bring that into play here. Down below, same process. There it is. And again, one more time, across that form, shadow. Yeah, a lot more animation. I mean, look at the difference. There it is right there, guys. And then just a little inside piece here. There it is. And again, highlight. Yeah, let's go a little bit of tone in this thing. Come back in here. Let's catch that little intake piece behind the front wheel, which is doing this. We'll catch just about that much of it. And we'll come back in and do the same thing. Was that number 7 gray? 5, 6, oops, nice catch. And I think we're right there, great. So we're coming back in with that number 7 gray. Lock the wheels in. Save a little bit of that dihedral, which is there and there, up over the top. And now we've got that started. We'll come back in through here. A little bit of glass graphics in here. Kind of tone this back just a bit more. Go back it again here. A little bit of a lighter gray. Go back to number 3. Off that center line, just kind of pull that off of there and just kind of pull that in. And a little bit of hot spot there. Now let's kind of blank these in, guys. Let's kind of get these guys to read a little bit more. A bit more drawing definition here. Let's take a moment. Let's go back to this drawing definition. How are we coming along here, guys? Pretty good? Neat, neat, neat. So far, so good, guys. Really appreciate your input here. It helps me to, I'm kind of buried into the sketch a little bit. It's good to have your input as we go here. So let's come back in again. A little bit more definition. Let's do this. Let's get this inside piece here to kind of crank at it here. A little bit of graphics. There it is. What's that? Into this. Just kind of give myself a line to work with here. Now that I have that, I can come back in and safely put all this stuff down for a moment and pick up the nice bold red and get that graphics to work for us here. There we are. There you go. So come back in again. Put a little bit of that same tone. It's that same gray here. I'm going to go back to a nice simple lighter gray here. Number 3 gray should do it. Bring that sponsor into play here. We're just going back in through here. Break this up a touch. Separate that concentration. And then bring that light source into play. One more passing through here. A little bolder. A little bolder in some of the reflections across the hood. Down the spike line. Again, there it is there. And bring that right into play here. Coming right across that valley into the shape itself. Much more animation. There you are. There, more toning through this. And a bit more shading into this. Down to that body form. And little by little, this thing's starting to read, hopefully. Let's go back in, add a little more drawing definition in this beauty. And we'll go like this. So we'll come back in, hit a nice solid, bold piece of strip lighting in here. Strip lighting in through here, and draw right through it. And while I'm at it, that same tone will come back in. A little bit of shadow on this thing. Let's kind of give it a little more spook. There it is. Just drop it all back. What do you think, guys? Reading like man? Yeah, hope. Okay, there's a little bit of shadow on this thing too. Let's come back down to this. Draw back into it. More graphics in this guy. Across that. Across that. And again, let's get a little bit of sky tone in this beauty. Let's put a little bit more in the glass. There it is. Just a little bit of that to kind of work with. Bring that on through. There we are. Again, in here, a little bit of that. And a little bit of that. And all of a sudden, there she is, guys. We're coming together with this beauty, slowly but surely coming out of the whole pocket. And let's just do this. One last little shot here. What do I want to do? Yeah, let's keep it all nice and clean. Maybe not so much animation here, but I want to just make sure we have this all set. A little bit of shadow underneath this thing. And last but not least, a bit of color in here. There it is. And last but not least, a bit of definition back in through here. Oh, I just hit the, hey, very good. Hey, Aranyoka, how do you pronounce that name? Thank you so much. Where are you coming in from? This is really neat to have you on board here. Thank you very much for the subscription. That's great. And again, if you identify yourself, I'd love to just say hello and welcome to the Dr. Contrast program that we do every Tuesday and Thursday. Doing a lot of neat stuff, but just fun little portion here of Porsche today and in the next generation of LMP materials here. So let me just kind of wrap this guy up here and we'll have a little bit of conversation to kind of close things out here. And there it is. Let's get that down just a bit more. A more definition through here, and just for what it's worth, just one more pass with a little bit of a lighter gray. Where's that light? Numero uno. There it is. At the number 1 gray. Just a little more. Just a touch more shadow into this thing. And that body side there, just away from the light source. Kind of roll that in. Nice. There it is. Take that right on through. Fill that in. Fill that in. Let's get that down. That wheel definition. A little more pastel added to this thing. We're going to come back in and add this to it, get a little richer with it, and then add that to it, a little deeper with it, and then just come right back in, and I'll do a little more definition in this stuff, just to get the flares to work. And there it is. And there it is. And we'll come back to put more definition in that in the next day or so. But boy, the person who just hi, these designs look super. Thank you very much. And who are you and where are you from? Aranyako, is that how you pronounce your name? I hope so. But gee, thank you very much for joining us. It's always good to have new people on board. I hope you're enjoying this as much as I am putting it all together. There it is. So that's a basic composition set here, gang. And I'm going to come back in, as stated here, and do a lot more definitive work in terms of fine-tuning some of the shapes, put more definition in the wheels. But I thought we just accomplished here today, what I wanted to accomplish in today's stream, pardon me for reaching in here, was to get the composition put together so that we've got a complement of very motorsports piece on one side, and on the other side, a very formal, very tight Porsche illustration piece. I'll be doing more of this stuff as we go down the line here in the next few days. But again, what I wanted to really illustrate in the stream today was getting a very formal 911 Targa, great piece of machinery, all set in some pastel and marker. This is a very freehand sketch here, a lot of definition in it, slowing it all down and making a very definitive operation, and then turning it right around and going back into things like this, where you have a lot more mechanical with it. Let me move that down just a bit so you can see we're all a lot more flair to it, a lot more lucid in terms of sketches, not as well defined. I can go back in through here for what it's worth and put more of this kind of spike into it, which is going to come hopefully on Thursday. We'll come back and add a little bit of backdrop and add the Porsche badging up in the upper left-hand corner. And just really a lot of fun to work with here. So that kind of gives us a pretty good shot at the first pass at it here. I want to do one last thing before we kind of wrap things up here. It's this. Let's take that finer point here and just kind of just separate this back in through here just a bit more from that forward shadow. There it is. A little more animation, a little more shadow underneath that piece. And again, shadow into this piece here. Just little touches. On the body side, and the body side follow through. Again, a little bit of highlight over the top. There it is. I mean, just a very, very crisp. Put a little more tone in this thing, and then that nose cut, and then through it. And again, very animated. You get the surfaces to read. So there we are, gang. All three studies. It's kind of bringing that whole story together and making sure there's some nice crispness involved in this thing. Let's go back and get this kind of read a little bit more so it's a little bolder. And even though you won't see much of it here, bit of definition on that guy, and there we are. I mean, it's just a lot of fun to be able to just put these things together. I've always wanted to do something like this in terms of combinations. I've done things in the past on top of it all. Oh, you're from India. My goodness. Very interested. Thank you so much for joining Ms. Aranyako. Is that how you pronounce it? Aranyako? Welcome aboard. It's good to have you on board, and boy, I'm really excited about the fact that you're from an Indian descent, and really thank you for taking the time to join me here. I hope you'll be able to join us on Thursday. I'll be announcing in a few moments here when I wrap the program up. Just interesting to have you on board. I go live every Tuesday and Thursday from 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and that might be what 7 or so around your time in Europe or in India. Really cool to have you on board. That's exciting. You just made my day. Thank you so much. So thank you. But all said and done, very lucid, again, very counterpoint, again, it's very specific. I think it's a good combination to work with. It kind of keeps us nice, and it's a very honest approach. It's not something we have to be cautious about, but at the same time, fabricating it's a very, very different set of circumstances. Shadow in here, pardon me, so I'm kind of picking up little things I should have picked up on before I stop the process here. But again, drawing to me is a thinking process, and I think what I'm really looking at here, whether it's a lucid sketch like these or a very formal sketch like this, so much involved in terms of putting together pieces as far as the graphics and line drawing and weights and changes and the like. And I think the most important aspect of all of it to me is personality. It should have a spirit about it. And I think that's what's great about the combination of the counterpoint of very formal to informal. And that counterpoint gives you a lot of depth to work with and a range of skills that can become very marketable. Again, thank you so much for your dedication here today, gang. On Wednesday, I'm going to mask this thing off, put a lot of past on, and just kind of walk it from a dark black into a bright red into a yellow, and then add a little bit of nomenclature on the outside in here. A little bit of tempera, a little bit more drawing definition to kind of tighten things down a little bit, and I think we should be in great shape. So again, so thankful for all of you coming on board. Carson, great to have you, and Victoria Carsonian, thank you so much. Ananyako, I believe, again, so grateful that you've taken the time to join me today. Hope you'll see it on Thursday. And for those of you interested, please pass along my information. Dr. Contrast, I'm live on Twitch every Tuesday, Thursday from 2 to about 3:30 thereabouts. Spend a little bit of time doing some neat stuff and working with a variety of different things, from interior space to product design, transportation design, landscape architecture, you name it. So Aranyako, if you're interested in industrial design and concept design, stay with us. We go through a lot of different areas of expertise. I think you'll have a lot of fun with it. And if you would be mind, go back to please visit my website at drcontrast.com, and you'll find a series of like a 9-lesson plan on just basic drawing skills, everything from perspective to light source to some automotive work and some soft goods and volumetric work. So I hope that'll be of some help to you. And also, please, if you have a moment, I always enjoy getting feedback from the audience. For example, if you have something, for example, you want to come back. If there's things you want me to work on, or you have some things you have some difficulties with, let me know, and I'll put together a program and help you. And let me interrupt you, because this is Carsonian. Got to get back to work. Thanks for teaching and being so engaging. Have a great rest of your day. And you as well. A friend of mine is a former student of yours. I'm giving to you. Great. Thanks very much, Carsonian. Great to see you again. Thanks for joining. Hope we'll get to see you on Thursday. And to all of you again, send me a note at jim@drcontrast.com. That's where. If you have any things, for example, Izzy Crazy 8, hey, thank you very much. Izzy, where are you from? Doc, it was really nice meeting you this weekend. Oh, yeah, thanks for coming by and doing the badass giveaway. You, sir, well, I'm not a magnificent talent. I'm very fortunate. Herbert Springs, Arizona. How about that? Thank you so much, Izzy Crazy. That's cool. By the way, that event on Saturday was fun to attend. It's the first one I've seen, and then Michael does a great job. I'm so grateful for what he does. Great talent indeed, and it was great to be a part of that process with you and Victoria and the rest of the gang. It was a good time, and so glad to meet some terrific people. So thank you very much for your followership here and your subscription. Marvelous. Thank you, gang. So all that to say that we'll pick this thing up on Thursday. Have a lot of fun with it. Again, please visit drcontrast.com. I think you'll find some neat stuff there. And I'm always interested in getting feedback from you. Please take a moment to drop me a note at jim@drcontrast.com if there are things I can put on that would help you. I'd be happy to do that. Any lesson plan, we'll be picking this guy up. And again, one last time, so grateful for everybody. And I always finish the streams with this because I think it's the most important part of it all, especially to Aranyako and again, Izzy Crazy, to each one of you. So very, very carefully and meaningfully, and from the bottom of my heart, please accept this. Dare to be great, because you are. All the very best, gang. We'll see you on Thursday. Take care, and thank you so much. Have a great day and all the very best.